Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everyone is in attendance tonight, and approval or additions to tonight's agenda. Anything? Okay.
You're asking for an approval or an addition?
Yeah, as long as we don't have any amendments, then we're
I'll
good.
second it.
I think we're good with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Approval of the consent agenda. We do have a lot in there. A couple different meetings and financials. Any revisions or any discussion about any of that?
I'll approve the consent agenda. That's good.
Can we make sure all the mics are on
That's probably a good thing.
and that it's closer to your mouth?
I'll second the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded.
And I think we need everyone on the board as directors to just say yay or nay.
Okay. So all in favor, specifically say yay, yay,
Yay.
Aye.
Thank you.
yay. Okay. All those opposed? All have stated yay. Okay. Approve of the 2025-2026 budget calendar. Got to jump forward to that. Is there any discussion or concerns with the dates included in the budget calendar? Does anyone have any vacations or anything that we need to be aware of to make sure that we're all going to be present, if at all possible? I am trying to find it.
Do we have,
Where did it go?
the list of the folks on the committee, and if anybody's going off, if we need to find another person for that committee? Casey, do you-
We do have a list, and they haven't been contacted.
Casey, microphone.
We do have a list, but we haven't contacted them as yet.
so that's for another meeting then to decide who may, if someone is dropping off and not
Correct.
interested, or if we need to assign someone else.
Correct.
Okay.
I move that we approve the budget calendar.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the budget calendar as written. All those in favor clearly state yay, yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. And appointment of a budget officer. Does staff have any?
That's Casey, I think. it's
Anything
in the
to share?
packet. Yeah, that it's typically that he would be the one to do it.
I was supposed to be that last year, but Don took over, so.
Okay,
It would typically be the superintendent in most cases,
Yeah.
so, I mean, right now, I would say that, and Casey would be in that position until we have a new superintendent on board, and then I think we could discuss it again at that time.
Yep.
So Casey, are you good with that?
I'm good.
Okay.
I move that we appoint Casey as the budget officer.
I'll second it.
motion is made and seconded. All in favor of the motion state aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, just in the interest of fairness for everyone, I'm gonna do public participation for those who are not here for the Friends Park issue first, just a couple people. And then we'll get into the public participation specific to that subject, if that's okay. I have, and if I'm out of order, I apologize. I have Clay Downing regarding Recreation Ready.
Yeah, so it's just a comment on item 70. that's
Okay.
On the agenda, I think that was a different one.
Okay, so you're on the agenda, not for public
It's- yeah,
participation.
so it's one of the other
Okay,
discussions.
okay, we'll hold off on that then. Let's see. Is there anyone else here? You for Peace Trail? Is that you? Okay. If you'd like to, yeah, go up, state your name, and then.
Good evening. My name is Larry Hampton. Many of you know me from school district or other things. This evening, I'm actually here representing North Valley Friends Church, and I'm just going to point it. Corey Abreu is here too, and kind of my sidekick from Veritas. Many of you, hopefully most of you know, there's the Peace Trail that goes around our property, and both of our properties actually. It was put in years ago before I was in North Valley, but I was in Newburgh, but not at North Valley, and with partnership with Park and Rec. And I believe there was kind of an agreement, but as I'm finding with lots of things with the church, a lot of the agreements were verbal agreements, and so you try and remember or go back and figure things out. But again, working in cooperation with Park and Rec to kind of maintain that trail, because recognizing that it is a community asset. If you ever go up there, there is always somebody on the trail. People walking their dogs, people just walking, people jogging, whatever. And certainly most are not either from the church or the school, just people in the community using that. Over time, the trail is getting kind of worn, and especially the west and north sides getting very cracked, and concerns about tripping hazards, or just that as you know with asphalt things, if they aren't kept up, then they get worse faster. At some point. And so just asking the board, as you are moving into budget season, to consider at least adding money into the budget for next year to do some repair. And, it certainly could be one of those things where pieces could be done a year at a time or whatever. It doesn't have to all be done at one time. But just, again, recognizing the value of that trail and wanting to keep it as a viable option for people for a long time. And so, anyway, that's all. No other big thing. Any questions or anything about that?
Is this whole trail, is it all asphalt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the property is owned by both the church and Veritas.
Yeah, most of it is the church. The school owns 5 acres of property, and so the part of the trail that is on the east side of their part of the property there is, technically theirs.
You said there was a verbal agreement that CPRD has been a part of this in the past. What has CPRD done?
I believe CPRD built it, or paid to have it built.
Portions of it.
Or portions of it at least. And not to throw him under the bus or anything. Casey and I walked it about 3 years ago. It's during COVID, so it's been a while. Just to see what kind of shape it was and talk about things. But, lots of things have happened since then. And so anyway, just want to kind of get it out there and at a time where you can prepare, where you haven't got the budget set. And if that's a possibility, then that would be great.
At another date, I'll fill Casey in on the history of that, because I was the one that was there.
Yeah, I'm sure you know way more about it than I do, actually. But yeah, and it's something that the church certainly doesn't have the funds to keep that up. So any partnership we can do would be great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Alex Nichols, Chehalis Valley Soccer Club.
Good evening, board. My name is Alex Nichols. I am the president of the Chehalem Valley Soccer Club, formerly known as Newburgh Youth Soccer. And tonight, I am here to open a dialogue with you about partnering or working together as much as we can on field space access for the athletes that we have in our community.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Are you from Newburgh, or can you state where you're from?
Oh, yes, sorry. I live in Newburgh, yes. I've lived in Newburgh for 13 years. I'm from Portland originally. So CVSC, as we refer to it in shorthand, is a 501c3 nonprofit based in Newburgh. It's been operating in Newburgh since 1979 under various names, and has always been focused on providing access to more competitive soccer for players in our community beyond what CPRD programs provide. The way that they do that is by allowing players to play through the network of against other teams and other leagues through OYSA, or Oregon Youth Soccer Association. CVSC is particularly focused on being a low-cost club, and we've made a very strong point to make sure that our cost for entry to the club is less than half of any of the surrounding areas. And it's really about continuing to provide access for a competitive space for players to grow and thrive within the game. This year alone, we provided $20,000 worth of scholarships within our club, so that we can continue to provide access for players that are low income or simply don't have the ability to afford that. And that comes in various forms, whether it's full scholarships or partial scholarships as well. In the recent couple of years, our club has grown meaningfully. It's typically served 100 to 150 kids, and we're now well over 220 kids spread across 14 teams. Historically, the way that the club has survived and continued to maintain this low-cost model is by partnering with Newburgh High School to allow our teams to practice on those fields and to play our home games on those fields. And they have given us access to that for free, which is an incredible service that they provided for our club and for our community. So as the club has grown, which has been a really great benefit for us as a club and as a soccer community, that creates new burdens. And the biggest one is field space. So right now, our ability to simply have all of our players practice is just not happening in Newburgh. And we've had no choice but to take our money that we have in a club and spend it outside of Newburgh so that we can provide consistent field access for our players. Now, at the same time, our coaches and administrators, as they're driving to Sherwood, where we are renting field space, they're noticing that CPRD fields, which are reserved for CPRD sports, rightfully so, are being unused. And the challenge that they are seeing here is that it's more of a scheduling issue and a coordination issue as opposed to lack of utility of fields, right? And so going back to that, not only did we spend $20,000 on scholarships, we've spent nearly $20,000 on field rentals alone for this year, and those are dollars that are going outside of our community. Yep. So my ask is simply to open a dialogue and start having a conversation with you all to figure out a way for us to be able to coordinate better, simply so that we can provide access to our facilities in our community to the players that are here. Thank you. Yeah.
I got a question. How many fields do you think that you need in order to fulfill the amount of kids that we got?
Yeah, so the approach that we take is we divide a standard soccer field into thirds. And so on a typical practice night, each team uses 1/3. So we operate in an academy style, so we'll put 3 teams on a field at any given time. So that'll typically be anywhere between 35 and 45 kids playing on one standard size soccer field. Across 14 teams, as we spread things out, we typically think that we need probably 3 fields at any given time. That's in season, so we have 20 practice sessions in the fall, and we have 20 practice sessions in the winter and spring season. The spring season is the busiest because that's when all of our teams are playing. The fall season typically has 9 teams right now.
So you think three fields would be adequate?
Yeah, I think that's right, or 3 slots, realistically, like an hour-and-a-half slot. And what we don't want to do is put excess wear and tear on facilities that CPRD is using. Right? It's a lot of kids, right? It's a lot of kids on a field. But one of the ways that we've done that is the club has recently invested in tower lights so that we can extend our practice hours. I know Rennie Field is something that's on the radar, and that will definitely help expand access, particularly with turf. But right now, daylight hours are the big thing. So we do have lights in order to extend that access. quite frankly, what we don't want to do is overstep our bounds and just start using whatever field we want. We want to make sure that we're doing things above board and respecting the space that CPRD has right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have something. So my name is Julie Peterson, and I'm the sports supervisor. So I have
Microphone?
So, yeah, okay. So we have in the fall and in the spring, we have about 1,300 kids that play soccer through CPRD. And during COVID, it was really we've never really had spring soccer, but during COVID, it was such a fantastic outside sport, and we wanted kids outside, playing. And so we established the spring league. So our problem is that during the spring, we also have softball. Right? So we play soccer.
I coached for 3 seasons
Yeah.
with
Can I interrupt
CPRD.
a second?
Yeah.
Really, because this is just a 3-minute discussion, and if we continue with one, we're gonna have to continue with all.
Yeah.
So it would be great, I think, if you can meet with Julie, who is our sports coordinator, and you folks talk about it.
Yeah,
And then bring
absolutely.
it back to the board. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
No,
That's
totally.
great.
And my
be lovely.
goal for tonight is simply to bring awareness to it and make
Thank
sure
you.
that there's a platform to have a dialogue. So I would love
Yeah.
to meet with you at some point. My email is written here and on the sign-in sheet. So
Perfect. That'd be
please reach
great.
out, and I would love to talk to you in the future.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, thank you.
Okay, is there any other public input for an issue other than Friends Park? Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, so we'll jump right in, and I know some of you have a specific order, so I'll try to work around that, so everyone gets their information out the best they can. First up, we'll start with Shannon Bernard, and then as we go down the list, let me know if someone needs to go ahead of someone else or what's needed.
I'll try to read fast. I think it went to about 3.5 minutes. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, and if you could state your name and your address or general location.
So I am Shannon Bernard, and we are residents, Casey and I are residents of Newburgh. Okay. So I just made this. I'm already going. Okay. Okay, hello, thank you for having us. I'm Shannon Bernard, and my husband and I are the donors of the land at 900 Winooski that conjoins with Friends Park. We are local Newburgh family with 3 children. We are not large land developers. We're not developers at all. We are part of the community. We love Newburgh deeply, and we want to make a positive impact for our city. To our understanding, CPRD has already agreed to the lot line adjustment and donation of land. We'll be compiling our communications for review and to assist in the clarity needed as we move forward. We want this to be a positive journey with CPRD. We have a 5-acre parcel of legally developable land at 900 Winooski that's located within the urban growth boundary for the city of Newburgh. We donated CPRD approximately 3.2 acres of our land as a charitable donation. We retained approximately 2 acres of our original 5. Our 2 acres retained is in the section located closest to the existing development/neighborhood. We did this instead of annexing the entire 5 acres into Newburgh and selling it all to a developer for building. CPRD agreed to transition a very minimal 7,400 square foot swath of land at the park's border to us that mainly consists of blackberry bushes and smaller shrub trees to our new lot line of 2 acres. CPRD asked us if we would build a fence along the border, and we agreed we would. We agreed that we would not impede the existing trail as well. Thus, Friends Park grows by 33% from approximately 9 acres to 12, and we go from owning 5 acres down to 2 acres after the lot line adjustment. This donation provides for the greater good of the community and is in alignment with CPRD's overarching mission and long-term planning. This will preserve habitat for wildlife, plants, and species years past our own visions and for the generations to come beyond us. This donation will make a positive impact well beyond an individual or group of individuals' personal agendas, wants, or desires. This can be used for education purposes and so many other areas of benefit to the citizens of Newburgh. As a portion is not easily walkable for part of the year, this is the part of the park that is for wildlife to thrive and live safely, so that we may see and enjoy in observance. Not every part of a park should function as a walkable space. The benefit is that this can cost nothing to CPRD, yet is valuable beyond measure. It's a natural and an unimproved space with no financial needs. On a side note, as Native Oregonians with a long cultural history of preservation, we've done our best to be good stewards of the property that we own. We've gone to great lengths to restore the native and indigenous plants on our property, remove non-indigenous and invasive species, and provide for a healthy space for wildlife to thrive. This was all voluntarily done to be good stewards of our land. We've had several on-site visits with Oregon regulatory agencies, and they have stated what a wonderful job we've done restoring and protecting the natural habitat, as it was not and is not required on our private property. Donating our land was meant to be a legacy gift to our community, and we hope this is how the majority accept our contribution. What we ask now is that CPRD take the time to revisit the chain of communications and be well-versed in this transaction prior to making any further decisions. It appears that more communication is required to provide clarity to the situation. We're happy and hopeful to work towards a positive outcome with CPRD, as has always been our intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna go down this list in order. If someone wants to defer and have someone else go first, just let me know. First on this list, I have Ned Knight.
I'm going to defer to Brandon.
To Brandon, okay. Brandon, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Slider. I live just a couple of houses down from Friends Park. So thank you to the board for hearing us out tonight. And I'm here with my community, which I'm so proud to be a part of. First, I want to just express my deep gratitude for all that CPRD does for our entire city and beyond. Your dedication to public spaces is awesome. We're glad about all the hard work you guys do. And Friends Park is a shining example of the impact that your work has done to our community. It's a cherished space that brings together families, neighbors, sports teams, and wildlife. However, the proposed land swap threatens things that make this park special. Nearly 2 acres of vital parkland, including a tree line that provides critical shade, noise reduction, and natural safety boundary, would be lost. In exchange, CPRD gains flood-prone land that's inaccessible for much of the year and costly to maintain. So we want to ask you, who truly benefits from this deal? CPRD gains this Hess Creek land, which I would love to be protected from development, but they also give up important buffer. The community gains nothing, in truth. We lose shade, we lose protection from noise, wildlife habitats, and a treasured place that we like to rest. The park will become less inviting, less safe, and less impactful for the hundreds of families who use it. The owners gain more. At the cost of our community's well-being, they acquire land to further their interests. Their actions have already caused irreversible damage, as you'll see today, destroying trees, habitats, and the sense of peace that our park provides. This agreement was made without adequate community input or full transparency. I'm glad to hear that the owners are making a pledge to good communication. That hasn't been the case so far. And it appears that some of the details when this deal was made may not have been disclosed to the board fully. I hope you understand that while we trust CPRD and we want to trust people who will develop this land, that so far we've seen this more as a scandal, as an attempt to pass this by quietly and quickly before we get a chance to even know what's going on. So tonight you'll hear why this deal is harmful, not just for Friends Park, but for the community and CPRD's mission. So we ask you once again to please just pause, reflect, hear what we have to say, and please make the right choice and cancel this agreement. Friends Park deserves to be a place that remains a place of joy, safety, and a connection for the generations to come. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna keep going down to the same person here, Ned Knight, and if you wanna go next, okay. Yeah, just state your name and where you're at, or where you're from, and then if you have
I'll be
anything you
referring to
need
that.
to show on the screen, say that in the microphone, and he
Okay.
should be able to bring it up.
Okay, anyway, hi, and thanks for providing the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Ned J. Knight, Adjunct Professor of Environmental Science down at Linfield, and I live 1 block away from Friends Park. I sent you all an email back on October 29th.
Can you bring the microphone a little bit more closer?
Sure. Anyway, I sent you an email back on October 29th describing the situation, but there has been some new information since then. And I want to refer to this property line survey that was requested by CPRD and done last Wednesday, November 27th. And if you look at the images there, there are 4 long, skinny images. The first 2 are looking south on the road that this developer has built. He brought in 50 truckloads of dirt and another several truckloads of crushed rock overlay. The first 2 images are looking south, and you can see in the greenery there are lots of tree limbs, which, by the way, is park property that have been toppled and just left there. But what was unbeknownst to all of us is that this survey showed that the property line between the park and this county parcel falls right in the middle of his road, and that's the 3rd image there. You see that stake right in the middle? So that's, to the right is park property, to the left is his property. So what he's done is he has constructed this road on park property. And he's infringed about 8 feet into the park, removing all the vegetation, all the trees, wildlife habitat, et cetera, that was there. And the last little image there is just showing the stake up front that says property line. Anyway, what that means is he has not gotten any notification or permission from you to infringe on park property. And so the way I look at it, you're justified in assessing a steep fine for park property that has been not only infringed on, but destroyed, at least 8 feet in that road. Okay, but let's go back to the road. We now have a couple of images further down, further south on the road beyond where he has dropped his gravel. And this part has been abandoned, but what he did initially is, you can see, particularly on the right image there are exposed roots there from these old growth legacy oak trees, okay? And there's a lot of concern how much permanent harm is that doing to these trees that are on park property, okay? So, and as you may know, there's a lot of interest and importance in preserving what few oak savannas are left in the valley. And so something like this that has damaged major roots of 3 of these trees, I mean, that's inexcusable on many levels. Anyway, the developers evidently realized that the road that he constructed on a slope with all of those dump truck loads of dirt and gravel overlay is unstable in the long term. It's all been constructed on a slope. It is slumping. There are areas where you can see major cracks in the road as it slowly moves down. So that's why he wants to replace his unstable road with flat park land in this 20-foot easement, okay? Because that's the upper stable part.
If you
okay?
could wrap up just for time purposes.
Yep, I'm getting there. Okay, so anyway, with the proposed plat map that you may have seen, his intentions are thinly veiled as access and utilities easement to benefit TL 900. Well, tax lot 900 is a 5-acre parcel just to the south, also adjacent to the park. Why would someone want to spend so much time, money, and destructive efforts just to benefit a neighbor? It's Hess Creek Holdings of that next lot. And this plat map easement that's what's written on that map, to benefit this other lot, okay? And it's because he reasoned that he needs it himself for access since his road has failed. The benefits from this property line, I'm almost done, the benefits from this property line adjustment ecologically, perhaps recreationally, are worthwhile, but they're far outweighed by the short-term and long-term consequences of this easement that will get developed and remove all all the vegetation there on the west side of the park. So for these reasons and others that you're going to hear tonight, we are urging you to rescind this agreement ASAP, okay? And thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next, and sorry if I get the name wrong, the letters on top kind of interfered with the writing here. Is it Jake Firth? Julie? Okay, like I said, it's hard to read with the name on top here.
Julie, can you spell your name, your last name? It's F-I-R-T-H. Say it again. F-I-R-T-H? Thank you. Firth.
And if you want to bring the mic down, it adjusts very easy. There you go.
Short. Okay. My name
Real
is.
fast, is there any photos or anything I need to display?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. My name is Julie Firth, and I have been a part of the Hess Creek neighborhood for 14 years. I would like to thank the CRPD board for allowing us to present our concerns for the future of Friends Park. I had worked with CPRD on the development committee for Friends Park, obtaining letters from the community stating what a park would mean to them. These letters were part of the application process to obtain a grant. What we had as a vision is now a reality. Along with the great park staff, we care for our park. It is evident by the people who use the park on a daily basis that this space is important to them. These include the MomCom moms, the many joggers and walkers, and the many children who enjoy the playground. Friends Park is under threat, not just from the proposed land swap, but from the actions of a developer who has shown little regard for our community and the public space we cherish. This developer has repeatedly failed to act as a good neighbor. Trucks sent by the developer have damaged our streets and private easement. He has encroached on the CPRD land as confirmed by a recent survey and damaged vital tree roots, jeopardizing the health of trees that are essential to the park's character and function. Please note the document created by Clay Downing at the Planning Department. At the 140 and 150 timeline, you will see we raised a concern about whether the developer had permits after he stated he did. You will see the Yamhill County Public Works confirmed no permits were issued and the Department of State Lands would be contacted. These actions demonstrated a pattern of disregard for the community and environment. To reward this behavior by granting the developer more land sends the wrong message to the community and anyone watching CPRD's stewardship of public spaces. Our parks deserve better. Friends Parks deserves better. We urge you to protect this space from further harm and stand with the community to preserve its future. Stay true to the CPRD mission. The mission of Chehalem Park and Recreation District is to connect and enrich our community through parks, recreation, open space, natural resources, and educational opportunities. Letting a developer take parkland and cause so much destruction does not align with this statement. In the end, the only one who benefits is the developer. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay. Lynn Whitmer.
There is a map that goes along with the overlay map.
Got it.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lynn Whitmer, and I've lived in the Hess Creek area for over 13 years. I would like to thank you all for having us here this evening. So as you can see from the map up there, it shows the developer's proposal. Is there another map that shows the red outline of it? Okay. So this overlays on top of the park. It shows what we lose, the western tree line, and it puts our walking path at risk. On paper, the numbers may look like a net positive. CPRD would exchange nearly 2 acres of Friends Park for 3.16 acres of the developer's land, which includes the Hess Creek area. But when you look at the overlay, the reality becomes clear. CPRD gains largely unusable land, flood-prone, which is inaccessible for most of the year. The 3 acres acquired are to be set aside for future development of the Heritage Trail, which will have no access to or from Fred's Park. How would this benefit the park? The only benefit would be for the developer. More than likely, a trail would be washed away and required reconstruction every year, which may put a strain on CPRD. What we lose, however, is invaluable. The western tree line provides critical shade, acts like a natural barrier to noise from the bypass, and ensures the safety of park users. We enjoy picking blackberries, watching bunnies and deer, and resting in the shade. It's a cornerstone of the park's character and functionality. Losing this area will decrease the attractiveness and use. Based on the developer's proposed adjustment, the walking path is at risk, and possibly the parking lot area. The community is unified in our stance. We believe this tax lot adjustment exchange of land only benefits the developer. We urge the board to cancel the agreement as soon as possible. We don't have a lot of time to save the park. Please prioritize the long-term well-being of Fred's Park over this deal, which was missing key information and lacked community input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Devin Spiker. Okay, okay.
Right. Adam Olek. Spiker, Spiller. My name is Devin Spilker. My wife and I and our 3 kids back up to the park. We've been there since the beginning. My kids are 10, 8, and 6. So I'm speaking today about the burn presentation, the issues that we had on him having these week-long burns during the summer. It happened a couple times. So under the DEQ law, Oregon 340, 264, 0110, this type of burn is prohibited without permit. Sarah, who is a representative of the Oregon DEQ who handles these such permits, did confirm there was no permit issued for these burns. The developer even sent a message to the neighbors stating that he would do a burn if it was allowed, but if it's not allowed, he would not be doing it. These illegal fires or hazardous smoke is a violation of Section 24 in the OAR, which defines nauseous and substantial unreasonable interference with others' use and enjoyment for the real property. Wow, it was a major concern for me, and it's getting me caught up right now. My son at this time and still is going through stage 4 cancer. He was 4 years old at the time. He's now 6. We have 6 months left. And during this time, you couldn't be outside. It burns your eyes. It burns your lungs. For me, we had to go get air filters for our bedrooms and our house during those weeks. And this is a very serious matter for me and our family. And I went out down there and tried to talk to the guy. And even the developer wasn't there. It was a helper. He felt so bad. He was like, look, I don't want to be doing this neither. He's sitting there. I mean, it was that bad. All right? And for someone who is just doing this and then getting away with all these scandalous things over and over again is very, very hard to take, that someone's not stepping up and doing something. And it feels good that seeing people here that actually care about it. Look, my dad was a contractor developer. There's a right way to do things, right? But when you keep on doing shady things, excuse my language if they think that's wrong, over and over and over again, there's got to be some kind of flag. Someone's got to stop this guy from having this keep going on. Because you know he's going to end up doing it again this fall. He's got plenty of stuff to burn down there, right? And my son has stage 4 leukemia. We are doing well. Hopefully we're ringing the bell end of April. So his name is Axel. So say a prayer for him. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Julie Terry. Okay.
My name is Denise Wolf. I've lived here only 3 years, but I'm speaking for Crystal, who couldn't be here, and she helped, she worked with Julie and got the grant for the park going and stuff, so she was doing this a lot longer. This park isn't just another green space, it's the result of incredible generosity and careful planning. A $287,000 grant from Oregon Parks and Recreation, nearly $300,000 from an anonymous donor, and additional CPRD funding brought this park to life. These contributions were made with a clear vision to create a safe, functional, and enduring space for our community. This proposed land swap undermines that vision. How would the donors feel know that the key portions of the park they helped fund are being given away? The community trusted CPRD to manage these resources responsibly, and approving this swap risks setting a troubling precedent for all parks in the system. Rather than rushing into an agreement that benefits one developer, we encourage the board to pause and explore options that align with CPRD's mission to protect and enhance community spaces. The vision that built Friends Park deserves to be honored, and its future deserves thoughtful, community-centered planning. Please reconsider this agreement and ensure that Friends Park remains a cherished space for generations to come. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, I have Joel Wenrich.
I think we have the change.org petition snapshot. Or it's at change.org/save Friends Park. If we could bring that up. Okay. Cool. My name is Joel Wenrich. My wife and I, Mary, live on Corinne Drive across the street from the park. I've lived in Newburgh for 8 years. I went to school in McMinnville, and I'm an engineer down there right now. Thank you for having us this evening and for listening to our concerns. The park is more than just an open space. It's the heart of our community where we live. It's where families gather, sports team practice, and neighbors connect. Every day it welcomes runners, cyclists, dog walkers like us, and children playing safely. And the western tree line is vital. The public opposition to this land is clearly overwhelming. Our petition has now been signed by over 250 residents representing parents, children, park goers, and neighbors who all recognize what's at stake. And if that's not close to the entire population of our little neighborhood right there, it must be very close. One signer wrote, "The removal of trees will cause a lot more usability issues because it will remove shade. It will create a lot of noise, as trees are a sound barrier for the bypass. The trees also stand as a home for local wildlife, which may include endangered species. It also proves a barrier to prevent children from going too far and potentially hurting themselves. The park being enclosed provides a sense of intimacy within the community, bringing the residents closer together. These are not isolated concerns. Friends Park has a deep history in our community. Neighbors in this very room, as you've heard tonight, have had a hand in its development. It was funded through a mix of grants, private donations, and CPRD resources, a testament to its value and collective effort to make it a reality, the one we experience today. And to see this land swap threaten everything the park represents feels like a betrayal of that shared legacy. We urge the board to honor the voices of the community and preserve this vital space. Please make the choice to cancel this agreement before it's too late. And I might add that Friends Park is one of, if not the only, that is wild on three sides in Newburgh. So I urge you to protect the gem of the park in Newburgh, as there is no other like it. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to our parks and our community.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone who signed up who I may have missed?
There's one more.
One more?
It should be on the overall list, not an individual.
Okay, who is it?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Rhea, can you spell your name for me?
REIA.
Perfect, thank you.
Can you please pull up the trees presentation?
Yes.
I'm scared that we will lose a bunch of trees and that we won't have any more shade. I am sure a bunch of animals will lose some homes. I feel like there are people living right next to the park path. I would feel unsafe. I'm glad that we have this park, and I don't want to feel like I must avoid going there. Trees gives us fresh air. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? This is last call for public participation. Yep, okay. And state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Julie Terry, and I do live in Newburgh. My neighbors here have all had very wonderful points on Friends Park, and I think a lot of them are valid. We recognize that the Bernards have every right to do with their property as they see fit. Our request is to please not let them take over public property, most of it that has been donated. I understand that there is an intent for a heritage trail coming through. My request is if CRPD really feels that that would be a benefit, it does feel like it's going to be a floodplain and more of a hindrance in their costs, but maybe consider purchasing it. It is for sale right now still. So that was my request and add-on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude, oh,
I'm sorry, I had just a clarification, I wasn't clear. Are you suggesting that we could buy what they have for sale? Yeah, okay, and do we know how much it is?
we'll take that offline. We're gonna move into our staff presentation. I believe staff has some information and presentation to share regarding Friends Park, so we'll stay on the same topic here.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kind of go over some of the history that we've had with the two landowners that have come to us. The first one being Pat Darby, and his request was to partition the park and put a home on it, and he would donate the total 5 acres of that parcel. And that's what we were working on at one point. It required a zoning change and a partition through the city. So, and that would have been kind of the corner of the parking lot area, which I think, Richard, you have a picture of that?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
So much media this night.
So you're saying the original plan was always to have a house there too?
Not the original plan, but we were working with the owner of that property because the 5 acres is of interest to the park district. And at that point, we told Pat that it was developed with a state grant and that would have to go through a conversion process, and that's, the state has to approve that. It can be done. And that's when it would go kind of public with that kind of information. Then he decided that his development costs for building a home there would be outside of what he was comfortable with. So that's when he sold the property to the Bernards, or CSB Holdings. And CSB came to Dawn and I and requested the same 5,000 square feet. So it wasn't the easement at that point. And I believe Richard's got the initial one up there. So the light green in the red is where the lot would have been originally with Pat Darby. So right at the corner of, what is that?
Where the parking lot is.
Where the parking lot is, basically. But it wouldn't include the parking lot.
Okay.
So, and then
Yeah.
he sold it to CSB, and they came to us and requested the same 5,000 square feet, moving the proposed lot kind of to the west, where we have that outlined there. And I think you can bring up the next picture, Richard. Not that one.
That's my record.
There you go. So this is one that shows where they wanted to move the lot. which made sense, cause it abuts the county property that's there, and still provides him access to utilities and inside the city limits, right? So, and then that was in March, that's when we got that one. And then I guess January, sorry. Then in March, the CSB representative talked with Dawn and provided the amended map showing the 20-foot easement. So then this map changed to the one that you guys all have. And that's 7,400 square feet, and it does take a portion of the park out. And we had it surveyed recently because of all your comments and requests, to make sure that what we were doing was the right thing. So property would still require conversion and approval from state parks, and we haven't started on that. In the April board meeting, the representative presented the updated lot line adjustment to the board, so they were all familiar. And then their thing was to Dawn was to kind of go forward with it. In August of 29th, Dawn signed the application for the lot line adjustment. Now, because we don't have enough information and what you guys have brought to our attention, I'm not gonna make a decision for the board, but this is a board decision to make, whether they delay the application, or whether they withdraw their name from it, or as someone suggested, we approach that owners of the property and possibly work out some other way to do this. I understand it is in your backyard and it is important, and I know it's important to Jim. He worked on the grant for a long time, and just having things go on down there, like a house burning down and a barn burning down. It's important to me because I spent a lot of time down there building the park. So, not to put this lightly, but I think, maybe we need to kind of step back and take a look at this a little bit more.
Okay,
You don't have a
Board-
recommendation for us then?
I'm just letting you know what needs to be done.
So we have three recommendations from you, and you have to choose one of them, is what you're saying.
okay, now we'll take time, for the board to ask staff questions. I have a few, I'll start them off and then we'll go from there. The first question, and I know that some of these may not be answerable, but I think they're questions that everyone needs to know, or at least wants to know. The first is, can this lot be developed for the building of homes without this lot line adjustment occurring?
Without access, I think he would have problems, but I don't know that for a fact.
Does anyone from the city wanna take that one?
I'm happy to answer I'm here on a different agenda
Yeah.
item, but I am happy
Well, I don't
to
wanna
answer.
put you on the spot,
But
but
I
if you
am,
do
but I am
wanna-
happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
Would you like me to do it on the mic though? So-
Yeah, if you're comfortable with that, but if not, let us know. Cause my understanding is the land is in the UGB and could be annexed into the city limits.
Yeah, so if services were to be provided, the lot would be required to annex into the city, and there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. That's just how the procedures work. So even if a land swap or conversion, or however you'd like to have that kind of named, were to occur so that part of the lot that's currently entirely unincorporated becomes partially incorporated, partially unincorporated, for services to be extended to that lot and for that lot to be developed, then annexation would need to occur. Now, if it was only used as access to some other location, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. And there are often ways to engineer one's problems out of existence, but the city, if that lot were to annex, has stream corridor regulations that extend further than the regulations associated with the unincorporated areas. So it'd be subject to new regulations. And so as private property owners trying to figure out what they can and cannot do with their property, they're in a tricky spot. And I think that's fair to say for what CSB Holdings is dealing with.
And on the, you mentioned that there's a certain amount of feet from the creek bed. Is that 200 feet per the city code?
For the city, it is typically, so it's our stream corridor overlay sub-district, and it
Okay.
is typically from the water feature up to top of slope. So it's not actually a consistent distance. For the county, it's a floodplain, and so that it's a regulatory, I think it's actually a regulatory floodway standard that's much closer and tighter to the water feature.
Okay.
And so they have more wiggle room with that, but there's a slope throughout the entire, for much of the property, not the entire property. So could they? It's possible with some substantial engineering, but they're probably too close to the water body for something like a septic field. And if they wanted to get services from the city for development, they would require annexation, would be the procedure the city would require.
So I have a quick question on annexation. Since we've had to deal with it with some of their park property, what is the duration of time to have that property annexed if it meets all the criteria?
So it can take longer because some of the time frame items, depending on the completion, the submittal process and what's called deeming the application complete, has a shot clock associated with it, and there's a different shot clock for review. But in general, if someone submitted it, gave us everything we needed on the first pass, and then we went straight to hearing, it could take up to 150 days. But that assumes that, one, the application is complete the first time that the city receives it, and then two, that we use the entire portion of the shot clock that's there. So we typically, from a customer service standpoint, would shoot for that completeness review to get done in 14 days rather than 30, or as close to that as we can. And then that procedure, which typically is going to the city council for their final decision, I believe our target is approximately 45 days. But it really depends on hearing schedules because it has to go to the planning commission as well as the city council, so it varies a bit, but would be between that 60 days and approximately 120 days on the shot clock.
Okay. Any other questions that Clay may assist with while he's up there?
Hey, Richard, can you bring up the map that shows the park and the property that's right next to it, the one that shows the trees and all that?
Just closed it, but give me a second.
I was trying not to interrupt this guy while he was talking.
Now you're good.
So we're looking at the blue line in the middle of that one right there, the going straight down. So he owns everything that's on the inside of that?
That's my understanding.
So if he wanted to, could he not cut down as many trees as he wants in that area, right close to the park?
He already has. Yeah.
All of those trees are gone?
There's only a thin line of trees remaining.
That's not the easement map, that's just the lot map.
Existing.
Right.
Where those
I'll
two
get that
roads
up.
are,
Give me
you
a
see
second.
that little easement? I mean, he was taking huge dump trucks going right down that little.
If,
Well,
and if I understand what some of that question is, it is private property, and as private property, they can do what they would like with their portion of property.
Clay, it seems to me like they're, and I'm just speculating, but they're going to be using that easement that is within the city at this point to be able to run their utilities down.
If it's a utility easement, that would be my assumption too. Again, we haven't seen what the proposed development is, so we don't fully know their plans, and so I'm somewhat hesitant to speculate too much.
Sure.
On their behalf. I don't think that's fair to them, but typically you look at access easements and utility easements to project where you expect things.
Well, I kind of saw where the sewer was and how they could take it down from there, so. Anyway.
And the city does have an interest in part of this property, correct? The sewer access or?
There are public utilities that go through the property, so there's a sewer trunk line or main of some sort that goes through, or wastewater, but that's right. What's that? Through Hess Creek, yeah.
And there's a manhole down there.
That's right, and there's a manhole associated with it.
So we have no idea where they would like to put homes, or if.
That's not an application that we've seen.
Okay, any other questions from the board to Clay? Okay, you are relieved. Thank
Sure
you
thing.
so much for
Thank you.
helping us with that. I have another question, and this is for staff, Casey. So the concept was that a trail could be built, and that would kind of connect over kind of towards the bypass and then follow the creek bed. I've been down there. I went down there with Brian. It is basically wetlands. So it would likely have to be a built-up trail, like almost like a wooden boardwalk or something even more built up than that. That kind of project, I mean, this is, you're spitballing, but my guess is just from how much things have cost and other park projects, we're looking at probably a $500,000 or more type of, more, yeah.
I can,
Jim might have some other answers.
I can give you some information on that, cause I
Yeah.
did the work way back in the day, probably 20 years ago, on that canyon and being able, and the park district had always wanted to be able to run a bike ped trail from Hoover Park up through that canyon, tie into the bypass trail and so on. And hopefully one day that will happen. But the reality is, and you could bench it down there and build a trail, and that's kind of one of the things we're looking at before we have Friends Park where it is. But we also have an easement that goes between two of the homes right behind from the cemetery there that they could come up out of the park there and come onto the street and then come to the park and then continue on the bypass if that's another option. Could you build a trail down there? Yes, it would be better if we had the property that they're talking about than not. For sure to build a trail a little higher. But yeah, you could do it, but it would be expensive. But that's always been the park district, or at least in the past, interest is bringing a trail down there so that neighborhood and others can walk all the way into Newburgh without having to jump around between subdivisions and hurdle over 220, 240 coming in, or 219 coming in. So, anyway, there you go on that part.
Okay, board, now is chance for questions. Yeah.
I don't ever remember approving this.
So we did look back through the video. We gave Dawn just basic verbal agreement to continue exploring the lot line adjustment. There was a change, and so he gave us a little update, and we said, okay, let's keep exploring that. We didn't make a resolution for a real estate transaction or anything of that nature.
And I don't think that, as I recall, the topic of the state came up as far as the LGGP grant. And, you know, if it hasn't been discussed with them, that's, we can't do anything anyway at this point on that property. Because it's a 25-year, and you know, it's not in perpetuity, but it's 25 years before we could do anything different. So that property needs to stay the way it is, or we could end up owing the state $270,000 and have to pay it back.
Well, again, Jim, you can do a conversion, and I did.
If they approve it.
If they approve it.
But
Yeah,
we
but I'm just
haven't
giving you-
even started that.
We haven't even
process.
started on that.
Right.
And when was this part, when did we get this money?
I mean,
2018.
I left in 2018, and I probably was working on that grant in 2016, 17, and was able to get the grant and the person to volunteer to do the groundwork in there, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, so now, we do have some options. I think one was to delay and get some more information. The other was to cancel the lot line adjustment. And that would be by removing our name from what has been filed with the city from the application. And then the third would be, what, full steam ahead with the lot line adjustment as currently it's construed, right?
Or talk to them about selling the property.
Well, I think that would be part of the wait and get more information and discuss with all stakeholders option. So those are the three options, yeah?
I have another question for the city. If we decide to put this on pause, how's that affect, what's at the city right now? Thanks, Clay. Don't mean to put you on the spot.
So my understanding of this application is currently in a status called incomplete, which means it hasn't finished that completeness review period. So if the application party wants us to basically pause that, we can do so for a period of time, but we can't do it indefinite, or we can't do it in perpetuity. So there are limitations on how long we can extend that. One of the provisions from ORS would typically say that it can't extend longer than approximately 80 days, and we are required to make a determination, and that's on 180 days once it's deemed incomplete. Now, once we receive a new submittal, we're required to start working on it again. But if we had correspondence from the applicant, and I'm saying applicant because it involves in this one in two parties. It involves both CSB Holdings and it involves CPRD. So if we receive some kind of correspondence that we would like to put this on hold, we can do that. Alternatively, at this point, the policy for the city is that if something is withdrawn before it's deemed complete, we offer a full refund for that because we don't want to penalize people when they're just trying to get to the review. So there wouldn't necessarily be a monetary penalty for that from the refund standpoint, but also we could do a pause and I can communicate with staff on exactly what sort of limitations or extensions we can offer so that all the parties involved know what kind of time frame. But I would expect up to approximately 180 days, or up to 180 days if I'm remembering ORS. But we would check that to verify before we engage more fully with the applicant or with CPRD individually.
And how would your process interact with the fact that legally we would need that state parks board approval to move forward? Do you not consider that because that's just our process separate from what you do?
What you said.
Okay.
So we follow and evaluate our criteria. This is an administrative procedure where the application comes in, we evaluate the criteria. If it meets it, we issue a decision based on those criteria. Staff don't get to make discretionary decisions or any sort of things like that. So if that procedure was going to take longer than we have available per statute, then we might recommend that it be considered being withdrawn and all parties could get a refund from the process that's underway.
I realize you missed the tree lighting for this, so.
I know.
Double thank
I
you.
helped set up a couple of tables before I came over
Okay.
here, so.
Thanks.
Okay, any discussion from the board on what of the three presented options anyone would prefer, or does anyone have a motion, or?
Well, if we were to wait, what are we gaining by waiting?
By waiting, I think the idea would be that we would have time to get more information, and potentially negotiate, if we wanted to negotiate with the landowner or with any party involved.
We could ask the state grants if they would even allow that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be one of the things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a process.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how long that takes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked originally on when Pat Darby was the owner, and they said could be 6 months.
Lisa, you had?
So, he's already worked on our property. He's already done stuff without actually having any right to do that. Because there's not been anything that's been approved. The lot line adjustment is even in process, so it's kind of disturbing that we're moving forward with all of this work when there are no, the agreements that are in place are not in place. They're in process, and yet he's torn up stuff, and I'm seeing a lot of issue for us on this. When they first brought it, the 5,000 square feet for 5 acres seemed like a no-brainer, right? Because it was right there at the end. It wasn't really going to get in anybody's way. But this is a different development. Even when we talked about the change of ownership, it never talked about having more than one house on there. So the impact is already being felt by some of the damage that they've done. And I don't know, as a board member, I'm feeling super uncomfortable that we didn't approve anything. Things are moving forward, and they're moving forward in a way that isn't even in line with what any of the jurisdictions would require. So,
He built a road.
I think those are very good points. I think they probably, I believe that there's a high likelihood that there was probably miscommunication there from our point of contact at some point. Casey, are you the point of contact with the Bernards and the real estate agent representing
I've
them now?
had some contact with Terry, and the last contact I had with her was back in, I think I talked to her on the phone a couple weeks ago, but I haven't been in contact with her before then since March.
So I think it's important that we communicate clearly with them, because my understanding is probably they would say that that hasn't been the case so far, which is the cause of some of the miscommunications. So if the board agrees, I think we should put Casey in charge of being the point of communication, and specifically to, this is not something that it's not done yet. It has not been completed. And so hopefully that gets the point across that, doing any more work back there that would be on our property shouldn't be done while this is on hold.
Well,
I think
Well,
that's
that was one of
important.
the reasons I asked Brian to get the survey done, was I
Right.
wanted to see exactly, cause he said he surveyed it.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't survey it very well if our survey stakes are down the middle of his road.
Down the middle, yeah.
So I do appreciate the staff going out and doing that survey. I think you did your due diligence on that. What I would recommend to the board is for us to put a pause on the lot line adjustment with the city. Basically, I think that, we could bring it back to the next board meeting. In the meantime, I think that I personally do not want to go forward with a lot line adjustment at this point. And I think that that should be, and that's just, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm just speaking for me. And I think because there's been so much miscommunication and things that weren't done appropriately, and the board wasn't fully informed on everything. And so this will give a chance for the developer to come back and maybe work with us to come to a determination on that property. I'm not advocating that the Park District buy the property, but I'm always open to discussion on things like that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I'm gonna say that I recall Don saying at least twice that we had already voted on this thing here.
You voted with the original owner, Pat Darby.
Yeah.
no, I went through so many records. Do you have where we have
That was
the
way
minutes
back.
that it was actually?
Are you talking about like 1985?
No,
No.
2022.
Okay.
It was.
We were moving ahead with the 5,000 square foot.
But
'cause
it was just to go seek more information. We
You,
never approved
no, you
the
asked
transfer.
Don to get an agreement with the attorney, which was John Bridges at that point, and he sent a letter out with all the information that we needed to do to get this done.
And in that letter specifically, it referenced that we needed approval through the state
Yep.
park board, and
Right.
that was
Yep.
not pursued, and then that owner sold.
Yep.
So that is no longer binding whatsoever. Now, that was rhetorically what was brought up in the meeting as, oh, you guys already, but we're not bound to any.
There's nothing's been signed, nothing other than the land use.
And you know what, I don't know what was said to the new buyers, but it's possible that they thought that they had some kind of agreement with our previous superintendent.
They do not,
They did not?
no.
Okay.
And I think as Clay said as well, going back to what Jim's perspective was, is that if we did stop it, now at least they could get their money back, you know, rather than putting a pause, they run out of the time, they don't get any money back. And like you say, then we have time to go ahead and chat with them about what the plan is, how it impacts the park, whether it's good for the district or not. So I agree with Jay.
When we talk about getting money back on, how much money are we talking about?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't usually do the invoicing,
Are we
so
talking about like $100? Are we talking about like
No.
it's
$1,000?
probably a few $100s. It's an administrative
Okay.
procedure, but it's probably not a couple of $1,000s.
So it's pretty negligible in the grand scheme of a development.
Correct.
They probably spent more on their engineer than they spent on the permit.
Certainly.
So it sounds like we're talking about putting a pause on things and getting more information and having more discussions. That's what I'd be in favor of as well. Is there any other
So you're-
thoughts, or does someone wanna make a motion?
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, so you're saying not stop the lot line process, but just put a pause on everything and tell him, what's the difference? I mean, don't have any agreements with him and he's already moving forward, so what happens if he keeps doing that?
Well, I think we have to be clear that Casey's the point of contact with them and with the real estate agent, and be clear with them that nothing else should be done on our land while we continue this process, getting more information. And if we bring it back in January or February, hopefully we'll have a lot of the other a lot of the other questions answered. I think the state park board thing, that's important. And then whatever other discussions we need to have with the owner.
Well, I think the original agreement that we started out with is important too. Had they just wanted to build the one house on the corner, that's a whole different story. What they're doing now is creating a lot of problems, and it's not really doing what we should do as a district. To make a driveway along the park and to, put some houses out where you have no other access.
Yeah.
And to try and get utilities out there. That's kind of, I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but they should go through the proper processes just like everyone else. And if they have to annex the property, then maybe they should.
Which is another can of worms, but, yeah. Okay, does anyone have any further discussion or perhaps a motion?
One more.
Yep.
Because that's zoned AF10 down there, the county would not let you build a bridge down there.
Yeah.
At all,
Yeah.
from what we know.
Unless
A bridge,
it's
what are you talking about, a bridge?
Any way of
A
crossing.
boardwalk, any way to cross the water.
Even a footpath across the creek, as of right now.
Fish and Wildlife will be there next week.
Well, again, I'm leaning against this, the lot line adjustment, but I do wanna have a pause, so we can, so the developer can come back and talk to us a little bit about it. And I think that I would also like to put a hold on that lot line adjustment with the city. And the reason I'm doing the pause is because there's so much information coming around, I just wanna make sure we have all our facts in a row before we make a decision. I don't want to, go down the wrong rabbit hole here.
Is that a motion? Kinda sounded like a motion.
I'll make that motion. If you
second
can
it.
come back and, I don't think you can recite that motion.
Can you create what that motion was?
Yes, I just did.
Oh, okay.
Can you read it back to me?
I'm trying to keep up here. You'd like to pause so we can have discussions with the developer before moving forward.
And get all information.
Well, but also
No.
to do a hold on.
And
the
do
lot line.
basically a hold with the city on the lot line adjustment.
Does the state grant thing have to be part of this motion?
No, that's just, we gotta figure, I mean,
That would just be
we may not
staff's
be
fact
legally
finding,
able to
yeah.
do something.
Okay, once you have that, let us know.
Okay, so we would like to pause so that we could have communication with the developer. And we will put, and with also a hold with the city of Newburgh on the lot line adjustment. Is that right?
Okay.
Does that sound like enough?
Yeah. Okay, a motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion on the motion?
My only discussion is that, I don't wanna put this in the motion, but Casey, you're going to be discussing with them about encroaching on just their property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we have something to look at.
Yeah, now that we know what that is.
Okay, so I made the motion.
I seconded it.
Okay, Lisa.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All those opposed? That is unanimous, aye.
Lastly, I want the neighborhood to understand, you know, I put a lot of sweat, blood and tears into that park in the past. And, we are listening, and we do care about what you say. So, I just want everyone to know that we are not ignoring you. And thank you for being active as folks that watch our parks. I know the board really appreciates that, thanks.
And with that, we will take a 5-minute break and we will reconvene on updates to superintendent search. So Bob, if you're online, get ready.
Take care.
Can you get me on? Go ahead.
No, I hope you're.
So that was unusual. Sounds like she was. So, yeah, but I don't think there's any.
Positions, we try to get back in session here.
Thank you for coming again, appreciate it. See you later.
Okay, we are back. Let's go ahead and move into our action item updates on superintendent hiring search. Bob, there you are. How is the weather in Bend? Is that where you're at?
Well, I'm in Sisters and it's cold.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
I have 27 here today.
Ah.
So. Brr, yeah.
Yeah.
But know that you got a pickleball discussion coming up, and I got to play pickleball for 4 hours today, so I feel pretty fortunate.
Did you break a sweat?
Yes.
Oh,
And then it broke- no.
that doesn't always happen with pickleball, so.
Yeah, well, I'm not very good, so I run a lot more than most people. So, hey, thank you for having me come and give you an update on the superintendent recruitment. And I want to first say thanks to Jim and Matt for all the extra time they're putting in with me to go through this process and represent you as a board. They're doing great work, and just want to thank them for what they're doing. So just to recap real quick, we began the recruitment announcements out to across the nation on October 28th. And it closed, the recruitment closed on Monday, December 2nd at 5 o'clock. We advertised through the National Recreation Park Association. I made some inquiries through their resume search to recruit folks, plus made contacts with some of my colleagues from across the state and across the nation to also spread the word about the position. And we also advertised through Oregon Recreation Park Association, the Washington Recreation Park Association, SDO, your own website, AOC, LOC, and I know that we also reached out, staff did, to the Chamber of Commerce there in Newburgh. So I think we did a pretty good job of spreading the word. With that said, during this time of year, it's not always easy to get applications just because of all the holidays and everything that's going on. There was an election in there as well. Those all play into factors. But with that said, we ended up with 19 applications. 14 of those were from Oregon. So that tells me there's a lot of folks here in Oregon that really know about Chehalem and how special of a park and recreation district you are. And you need to probably pat yourself on the back for that. That's really a great statistic. Of those 19, 15 of those met the minimum qualifications. And if you remember right, when we approved the job description, that included having a bachelor's degree in Parks and Recreation Management, Public Administration, and I think we added business management and urban planning, or a related field. So keep in mind a college degree, and then 8 years of minimum experience leading an organization, basically supervisory and going through supervisor to directorship, anywhere in there. Are they progressing in their career? Those were really the, the solid thresholds which somebody had to pass to be considered a viable candidate. So with that, there was 15 applications. Those 15 applications with their not only the CPRD application in there, but a resume and a cover letter have all now been sent to Matt and Jim as the search committee representatives, and they are reviewing those and scoring those applications. And we are meeting next Tuesday to review their findings and determine what our next steps are. If you remember from the information that I provided you, we were hoping to get down to 5 people that we would bring forward to the board as a recommendation on who we should interview. With that said, there needs to be flexibility in there. There may be some folks that are sort of on a bubble. Well, maybe we should do them or not. Jim may have an opinion about 1 or 2, and Matt may have an opinion. They might ask me about, of these folks, how do you feel? And I can absolutely give them my advice. So we may end up having to move that around a little bit and make some alternative decisions, but those recommendations will be coming to you as a full board on the 11th. Prior to the 11th, right after that meeting's over on the 10th, anybody that we're going to be considering for the position, be it, gosh, there's a strong recommendation for these 5, or if there's, 8 folks that we want the rest of the board to see, you'll be receiving from me copies of their resume, cover letter, and application. Here's what I need to stress to you as a board, and I really want you to underline this. Make a note to yourself. When you receive this information, it is confidential. These people are working in other places, and we need to hold that true to them so that there's no jeopardy of them being considered and then not having an opportunity to talk to their employer about what they're doing. So let's make sure when you receive that information from me via email, it'll be a PDF file, that you hold that, you can review the information, and then on the 11th, we'll be in an executive session to talk about the recommendations from the search committee and to review the candidates that are being supported to move ahead. So with that, if we stay on schedule as we've talked about, and what I'm going to need a commitment from you as a full board is that we're scheduled from when we did the schedule clear back in October to host those interviews on Monday, January 6th. And we would like to have the full board participate in that. We're going to do sort of a circuit type of process where each candidate will be interviewed by the board. Each candidate will be interviewed by a committee that's made up of the direct reports to the superintendent and community members. And we're looking at a couple of your former board members that you guys have said that they're honorary board members, plus some representatives from the city, the school district, and I think there's at least one other citizen involved that would be on that panel. We're also anticipating a community open house for the community to meet the candidates. All of this is going to be occurring at the Cultural Center, and that will be a time for community members. It'll be a time to really get the rest of the staff to meet the candidates. And during that time, the candidates will be able to speak to the group for a couple minutes, just sharing their bio, maybe a little bit of information about them. And one of the things that I have done in these situations is I've emceed that part, and also I've asked them a question that came from their resume or their information, just so that we can hear how do they handle things when it's just a sort of off the cuff. So we'll see how that all comes together. But that's all on January 6th. One of the things that I would encourage you to think about is who would you really like to invite besides just the general public and advertising this through your website and what other resources you have in Newburgh. But who else would you like to invite? The city council, the city, maybe the city management team, the school district staff, some of the school district folks, folks like that. Your budget committee would be a great group. If you have a foundation, inviting them. and then just having the whole broadcast out for the audience. So that's where we're at this point and where we're headed. The 11th, we should be able to come out of that with some recommendations of next steps, and we'll be very clear about what that is by the time we leave there that evening. And then we'll also add to your list to to-dos as board members is to be thinking about what type of interview questions would you like to ask, and we'll talk more about that on the 11th. So with that, Matt, I think I'm chatted long enough. What else can I do for you guys?
Any questions from the board? And first off, is everyone going to be free January 6th? There's no,
That's, did we set a time for that? Did we talk about a time?
January 6th,
it'll be
that's
an
an
all-day
all-day
thing.
deal.
That's Monday.
Yeah,
It's a Monday.
Right.
Monday.
Yeah.
Mondays work good for me.
Plan about 8 a.m. till 9 p.m.
It's gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
Depends on how many people we interview.
Who's bringing pizza?
Diet Cokes.
So we
for
have
everyone.
secured the cultural center?
I talking to
Lisa?
Kat earlier. Yeah, I believe so.
I'm gonna be chatting with Sean Andrews, who's the executive director at the Cultural Center, to try to get that coordinated. I'm hoping that it's gonna work. I know that they are thinking about opening usually Mondays, the Cultural Center's closed. So it would work perfectly if that's still the case. I do know that that board was chatting about potentially opening 7 days a week, so I don't know what those challenges might be. So I'll have something by the 11th for you as to what we
Okay.
can or can't do. And if
Yeah.
there's other alternative places, I'll try to figure that out as well.
Okay. And I again, I think Kat, you might converse with Kat because I thought she was talking to them as well.
Okay, will do.
So I can say that Mr. Kiefer's done a good job of keeping Matt and I in line and basically making this flow smoothly. And so we have a lot of applicants and there's a lot of folks that are definitely quality applicants. So it's gonna be a good process.
I just like to say thank you guys for your time doing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Bob's keeping us busy, that's for sure.
Good job, Bob.
Okay, anything else for Bob before we let him go?
Thanks,
All
Bob.
right,
Thanks, Bob.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Play pickleball outside tomorrow.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, this next action item, if the board agrees, I think this is something we should probably table. We're in the process of hiring a new superintendent, and so is the school board, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to, start fresh when we all have our staff in place before we start talking about
I agree.
joint
Yeah,
meetings.
I agree.
Okay. Move on that one. And we have another guest. We are just lucky tonight. Capital projects update. Hit that little orange button.
Gary, can you give us an introduction though? Because a lot of
Yeah.
folks
I
don't.
will.
No,
I
yeah,
will.
thank you.
Yeah, last time, you got introduced to me at your last meeting,
Okay.
kind of virtually and kind of in passing as you
Yeah.
kind of approved my agreement. Mr. Kiefer and I go way back. I used to be the director of the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District. It was unlike this district, which is a standalone ORS 266, like Willamette Lane and Bend and Tualatin Hills, North Clackamas is a county service district. So I was a county employee for Clackamas County. I was director of business and community services. I ran all the county park system, as well as served as the director of the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District, had economic development, libraries, county fair and event center. So I kind of had a mixed portfolio. I was there about 10 years, retired in 2017, set up a little consulting practice because I wasn't ready to just go cold turkey on working. Again, through Bob and our connections through SDAO, I got hired to be the interim director of Madras Aquatic in Park District. They had a little issue with their executive director who had been caught embezzling and had to be terminated. So I went in there and they had some issues there that I kind of helped clean up a bit and did a search for a new superintendent there. And when Bob told me the number that you've got applying for this position, I helped do a similar thing for Madras, and we got like 5 applications and only 1 from in-state. So you've got a fantastic opportunity here. So I just wanted to kind of share that insight. After Madras, I got hired back by the county to manage their new county courthouse project. So I got that under contract in a public-private partnership, set up a brand new county courthouse going to be built and replace the old one in downtown Oregon City. That will be, I left in 21 when we signed the agreement, and that'll be a ribbon cutting in May of 25. So that one's getting done. And then I was kind of peacefully retired after that point to a degree, just dabbling. Got a call from Bob a few weeks ago and said, would you be interested in maybe helping out Chehalem a little bit? So had the opportunity to come meet with Matt and Casey and Jim and talked a little bit about the needs on the capital projects. And I thought I could, you know, be of assistance, especially during this transition period here, just to kind of get things, help Casey get things kind of lined out in order and keep things progressing and make sure that critical grant deadlines are either met or extended and those funding opportunities are not lost. So the board's given me some, and Casey, some direction on the projects. I focus mostly, I've been just doing about 20 hours so far in the engagement, about 30 hours, focused mostly on Sander State Park. That's got a lot of critical moving parts to it, but it's also very well advanced. A few things are going to get that thing kind of unleashed. So for each project, though, to give a synopsis, I've provided Casey kind of a status report that outlines kind of the things that were just accomplished, the next things that are on deck, and then outstanding issues, any critical concerns or anything I see. I also developed a project charter. I'm going to develop one for each of the projects, and it outlines kind of just a synopsis. Here's the critical project. Here's what's intended to do. Here are the resources. Here's the team members of this particular project. And then I've set up a tracking project management system, basically with all deliverables, tasks that are dependent on other tasks, so that this task can't be completed until the one prior to it that's been identified. And so good news is you got a lot of tasks that are, you know, 90% complete or better, or 100% complete. But we've also got a few red dots here of some tasks that haven't been started yet. So I'll be doing this for each project as well. I've met with, on Sander, I met with Lango Hansen, they're the landscape architect, under contract now to get that all the way up to construction docs and out to bid. Met with Brett, been doing a deep dive with Brett, and he's pretty excited to be, you know, having this connection and moving forward on the final pieces. He's exchanged communications with City of Dundee on the Title I application. There were just a few outstanding items that Brett has now responded to. He and I met with Doug Rux and Steve Dahl yesterday, the city manager, and had a good kind of pre-app meeting, if you will. And we're on the council agenda for January 7th for an information update to them on the app. And then January 21st, we'll be going back before them for final approval of the Title I. And that should, you know, free us up then to move forward with the construction docs. They're about 95% complete. I'm going to get a template from Casey on your RFP process, so Lango can help us put the RFP together. And then the final piece is I'm doing kind of a sources and uses statement for every project, identifying all of the funding sources past, as well as what Don had budgeted for this fiscal year, as well as what's been completed to date on the uses of those funds, and then most critically, what's the remaining need of funding to complete the project. And then I'm going back to the budget and making sure that the dollars are there, allocated to each project. so we know which ones you could advance on confidently. And Amber's been helping me, finance director, and Casey on kind of getting deep into the budget and understanding that a bit. So for each budget, you've got your general funds, you got your system development charges, you've got grant funding. In the case of Sanders, you've got the donations. And you just got another $90,000 donation yesterday, I heard. So I've added that to the bucket of available
This is from
funds.
Sanders.
From Sanders.
family.
Yeah.
Really?
That's
Okay.
awesome.
And
So-
when you said you met with the city, I know that there was a concern as to improvements. They had a water line that needed to be done. Was there any discussion about that?
There's a couple of things that are, there's the Fifth Street improvements that are going to be required. You know, the development of that park is triggering, and that's not unusual in a development, that you are the one that triggers an improvement to a public infrastructure. And then there's also a plan in their transportation system plan. There's a plan for a access road, just a neighborhood road, basically, that they'll need an easement for through the western edge of that park, tying into that residential area. The Fifth Street improvements, the discussion has been that the city's willing to use urban renewal funding to pay for that, even though it is a park district obligation as the property owner and the developer triggering that, but they're interested in seeing this project to fruition. The issue is, and you may have heard this from Don, they don't have the existing funds. They need to get more tax increment financing rolling in from new development. But they are willing to basically set up a loan where the district fronts it so this project gets complete, and then they pay the district back when the URD funds start rolling in. So it's been referred to in a couple of documents here as an MOU. I would probably characterize it as an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement, because it needs to be a strong contractual obligation if you're lending between two public entities. And then the MOU is, when you're building that park phase one, and we're being very clear about phase one and then subsequent phases, and what is going to be required just for phase one. But for phase one, you still want to get a lot of your infrastructure in, so that later on you don't have to extend electrical and extend plumbing and other aspects. So phase one will be the most robust as far as preparing that site for all future development to a degree. But with phase one, again, being kind of a triggering phase, they would require sidewalk level improvements to the borders. One of the things we're talking about is getting a deferral and having that come at a later phase so we can just put some more temporary kind of surface trails in some of those areas that long-term will require a more permanent sidewalk built to city standards. So those are the final kind of issues we're kind of working out. There's some right-of-way. I think Casey's been working with your city attorney. He's got documents drafted for some right-of-way that needs to be recorded with the Yamhill County.
Yep. They were all sent to City of Dundee.
Yeah.
And twice now.
And they don't know where they are, so they told me yesterday they don't.
So you mentioned something that confused me a little bit.
I
You
saw
said
your
the
brow
road,
furrow, yeah.
the road and the transportation master plan that goes through the top of the park. Were you saying that they actually still want to build a road through the top of the park?
Yeah.
So one of the discussions we've had with that park is
Yeah.
to change the zoning
Yeah.
to parks and open space.
Mhm.
That would eliminate the need for that road.
That
road.
It wouldn't eliminate it, but it would help.
That
Yeah.
road was put in there because that's all R1.
Yeah, they were going to develop it as
They're gonna
residential.
develop as residential, and they would have needed that road.
So now that it's a park, putting a road through the top of the park is a little bit insane.
I talked to them pretty extensively about that yesterday. It's still in.
Are they wanting that?
They
Or is it
they
required?
staff are not necessarily advocating for it, but they're saying their council, previous and current council, still want the current transportation system plan implemented as scheduled. But they're not taking it. They're not removing it completely. They said we could certainly make a request.
Well, let's just wait
And
a month on that.
To Casey's point, the Title IV application, they said if I just complete the application, get Casey to sign it, Doug Rux will complete it, pull the plan maps, everything else and get that set for both Sander and Billick across the street to rezone both of those as public space and not as residential.
Because we're not intending to put the road in, right?
It's in the adopted plan for the park. It does show that right of way in there. That's
They
what's
made us
been,
put it in.
that's what's been approved.
Okay.
But that's not gonna be in phase one.
All right, we'll take this offline. Any other questions?
Yeah,
about
three
Sander?
things. One, I really would like to get us to be shovel-ready at the end of the spring. That's one. Because otherwise, if we go through it and don't get things going this summer, it'll be another year. So I appreciate the work you've done. It's like we're moving forward, and hopefully we can do that, because we've been waiting 6 years. And second is, I just want to make sure that we are not going above and beyond what the code requires. With the city, sometimes everybody wants something extra sometimes, and let's let them do it. So I trust that you've got that handled that way. And as far as the easement on top, I agree, if we can do a change in the zone, that would be great. I would be surprised if the community would be supportive of a road up there, because it makes really no sense. So I'm not really that worried about that as far as them saying, you're gonna build a road. I just, we don't have the money to do that, and they would like a park. So
I think,
that's
yeah,
just
and
my
if it's not
2
required as a condition of use for the phase one,
Right.
and it just, the right of way is just indicated as a potential on the master plan, I think the very next step in is to get them to revise that transportation system plan, to remove that out of there and get that Title IV app in there to get it rezoned for public. Because I told them the same thing. I said, it's a calming effect there in the park. You don't want another vehicular kind of activity. Unless you created something where it was maybe just an angled parking lot, that could provide that.
Don't go there yet, but maybe in return with the folks, which makes sense up there, is, and I think Casey and I have discussed this before, and it's just to be able to connect that one neighborhood, just have a trail across the top there to tie in everything else, and I think the community would be
Yeah.
tickled to death.
I'm getting my bearings still. I'm not as
So I
familiar
get
with
it.
this community as far as the arterials and the circulation flows of what their TSP is trying to address. But they did say it was more than just serving, the residential community there, or what they thought would be needed for if the Sanders property had been developed as residential. It was to keep traffic off of 99 and others to promote more north-south circulation flow. So there might be a traffic study required, I don't know, but I definitely appreciate your point about doing what the code requires, not in excess. And one of the first things when I dove in this, I was trying to understand, is the council asking for things that they desire, but they don't require, and making sure that those things are considered. I had that same situation in Clackamas County with my own fellow departments were imposing restrictions on some of my parks that weren't even required. They just wanted me to go above and beyond.
Right.
I didn't have the money to go above and beyond, so.
Thank you.
So I'm very mindful of that, and I'll keep an eye on that. The other one, I'll obviously start focusing on the pickleball and tennis courts. That should be, moved fairly quickly on that one. And then the bypass, and Casey and I have been having some conversations. I did a little drive-by at the terminus there to get my bearings, got chased off by one of the property owners. I parked in his parking lot while I got out and walked around, and he wanted to know what I was up to down there. And wasn't thrilled about a new trailhead being there, but we'll overcome.
Well, thank you, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
You
you.
bet.
Okay. Okay, recreation ready. I think we have some folks here to present.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
for everyone, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, it's been a
Thank
long
you.
meeting. I get it.
Hi, sorry. Hi, Board President Smith and CPRD Board members. My name is Katie McFall, and I'm the Deputy Director at Taste Newburgh, and I'm here today to talk to you about a letter of support for the Recreation Ready program, and I'll let Clay, my sidekick today, introduce himself again, I guess.
Nice to talk to you again, Board. My name's Clay Downing. I'm the planning manager for the city of Newburgh, and I'm also a participant in the steering committee for Recreation Ready. with Katie and hopefully with CPRD.
Yep, so I can give a little bit of a background pretty briefly. Taste Newburgh is the City of Newburgh's destination management or marketing organization. And so our goal is to drive visitation to our area while also increasing the livability of local residents. So Travel Oregon is the state tourism office, and they rolled out a program very recently called Recreation Ready. This program is really geared for projects that are needing activation, to do feasibility study, to do community engagement, and to establish an action plan. So that process happens over the course of about 6 months. That's phase 1. Phase 2 then is implementation of an action plan. And with also the benefit of $100,000 flowing into the community to jumpstart that action plan. There's no matching funds required for that money for projects that are identified. And so, yeah, that's why I reached out to you when I heard about the project, reached out to the City of Newburgh, CPRD, to establish projects that may be of interest and that fit the guidelines that Travel Oregon is working under. And then we brought in Yamhill County Parks as well. We talked about it and we agreed that river access and a continuity of a river plan or some kind of activation to bring together the different land managers would be a really meaningful project for the community as well as the visitor economy on the Willamette River. So that's what I came here today is to request a letter of support from the board for the application, and happy to answer any other questions. I should mention one more thing is that the steering committee, which we have to establish for the application, is ourselves as Taste Newburgh, the City of Newburgh, CPRD, and Yamhill County Parks. So, thank you.
And I have the letter right here.
Yes, you have the letter and some information in your packet, is my understanding. Yes.
And Brian he's already a representative?
Yes, so he's
Okay.
committed to the steering committee, and Brian is the representatives from CPRD that we've been meeting with and chatting with about things.
Awesome.
And I have his commitment letter right here. So
Yes.
it's already signed.
Yeah.
Casey, do you have any comments?
I think it's great.
Okay.
And I will say that I think it's going to be a really competitive program. There's only 4 communities in the whole state that are going to be selected. So we'll just hope and see. The application is due tomorrow, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks if we're a selected community.
Super.
Well, I move that we sign the letter.
A second.
And a great resource.
Yeah, all those in favor then, I guess.
Okay, well, let's take a vote before I sign it. Otherwise, I have to white it out.
Sorry.
And then, so all those in favor of the motion as so stated, state aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passed unanimously.
And part of that was a paddle launch, is that what you were discussing?
Yeah, so it's not like we have identified exactly what it will be, but yes, that is something that has been talked about with losing access in Dundee, as well as different sites along the river that may be able to be developed and looked at for development. So I don't want to promise anything, but potentially.
So Clay, if you'd like to meet on that, if you folks would like to meet on that, I'd be more than happy to share some history and possibilities.
I think that'd be helpful for the entire steering committee to get some of that history.
For sure.
So what we had thought, and part of it was coming from multiple entities that all had a touch on this, from tourism and economic development, the city and some of the riverfront and other master planning efforts that kind of barely talk about open space and recreation along that area, knowing that Yamhill County Parks is involved in management, especially at Dayton Landing and Rogers Landing. And then CPRD, obviously. And knowing the recent history with loss of access, seemed even better to try and turn that back the other direction and get more access. And so trying to take a bit, kind of a posture forward on that.
I will also mention that I worked very closely with Janine Black at the Marine Board for many years, and she is aware of the project. She's interested in it, and we also have a letter of support from the Marine Board if we decide, not agreeing to anything, but supportive of some type of river activation.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, final action item, I believe, unless staff had any last-second applicants, we had just one more application for pickleball committee, is that correct? See if I can find it.
Yeah, and basically, he had talked to me prior, that was, Bob Olson, talked to me prior to the last meeting, but because of, for some reason, it didn't get into the packet.
Yeah.
So he's been on the committee before, avid pickleball player, very supportive, down-to-earth guy. I'd recommend that we add him to the committee.
Yeah. And how many, did we need one more to fill out the committee? Was that?
We're talking two more.
I thought it was two, yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to appoint Bob Olson to the Pickleball Citizens Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, it was unanimous. Okay. And moving on to committee updates, we don't have anyone from Pickleball Committee.
they're just excited to see it built, I think is what I hear.
Okay. So no one here tonight, okay. I don't think we have anyone from the Trails Committee to present. I was there, so I'll give a brief update. I wish Brian was here. He was excited. We went through the backgrounds of everyone on the Trails Committee, and my goodness, there's a lot of experience there. So I think we're all a little bit surprised. I mean, we had read the applications, but hearing the stories of how much trails experience everyone had and other various relevant experience was pretty overwhelming. And then they did nominate the chair. I forget his name, but he was he ran Shampooey State Park for quite a while and a number of other parks. A lot of experience there. So that was very exciting. Golf, I don't think we have. Were you at the last golf meeting?
Yeah.
Any highlights or anything you'd like to share, or?
No, there's a lot of.
You have to step to the microphone.
What's that?
You'll have to step to the microphone.
yeah.
Sorry, man, to make you get up.
And then while you're up there, you can do your staff report after too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll do a twofer.
Still a lot of information gathering is basically what stage the clubhouse committee's at. The survey runs through the end of the year that they're trying to gather information through, as well as trying to get out and go to other golf courses, look at clubhouses, talk to people, just get ideas about what their thoughts are on clubhouses. So kind of where we stand right now.
Okay.
And as for my report, I don't have a lot. If you guys have driven by the golf course, we took the tent down a month ago, the shell of the tent. So we cleaned that and have it stored for the winter to extend the life. I think we got a new shell 2 years ago. So we made that decision then to start taking it down yearly. That's about it. Just planning for 2025.
Okay.
So, yep.
Cool. Now, there is a note here for project updates. Do you have anything in addition to what the our planner shared?
Not really, just I've been working with him, trying to get him up to speed. And,
Okay.
yeah,
Perfect.
And things are going good?
they seem to be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That was
Golf-
great to hear.
Golf course is still busy. It's 25 degrees down there this morning.
But you're still busy out there.
It's still busy.
Super.
That's crazy.
25 degrees, tough on
It's
the
been
gas.
sunny though. It's
Just-
been
Yeah.
sunny, so.
They don't get to go out there until 11, but yeah, they're still out playing.
Wow.
Not so.
For the pickleball advisory committee, did we nominate the four that, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, we did.
Yes,
I
last-
didn't
last
remember.
meeting, yeah.
Couldn't remember. I just wanted to make sure.
So we do now have five.
Yeah.
We have space on there for two more, but I think staff should send the five that we have, since it is a full
Yeah.
committee, and let them start deciding when to schedule their first meeting.
Yeah.
If we can do January, February.
From Michael Kringlin, but I kind of, my expectation, have you
I talked to him today.
Oh, good.
Well, he is no longer the president, so he's just kind of chilling, but he's planning on participating and
Okay.
being involved.
I
And
mean, he
that's,
could be a public participant too, if he doesn't
Yeah.
want to be.
so he's not officially on anymore.
No, he didn't
Huh.
apply. So.
Interesting. Does he know that he didn't?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard from him. I think he goes to Arizona.
He does,
He was in Hillsborough today.
Oh, he was?
I got the feeling from him that he was no longer the president, but he still intended to be involved with the committee. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he realized, well, I don't know. I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him next time.
Okay.
When's the next meeting, Julie?
We're gonna meet quarterly,
Okay.
so I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember the date.
Okay, well, you are our last staff report.
Me?
Yeah.
I guess all I have to mention is that we do have Christmas.
Closer to the mic.
Oh my god. What in the world? Cookies and cocoa with Santa for all of you guys. December 9th, it's going to be at the Dundee Fire Station. It's really a neat event. And we continued on even during COVID. Everybody was all masked up. And last year, it was just tremendous. And so Matt Compton and his group do a great job. The Santa is amazing. And the participation is really great for everyone. We're doing well at the Park District. I'm very proud of all the employees. The staff has really, certainly in the last 6 weeks, stepped up, and everyone is really working hard. And it's just a good feeling to be part of a positive team. And you don't even have to ask. Everyone just steps in and does it. And my hat is off to every single one of them. And so I just wanted to make sure that was noted.
Okay, we will do time for each of us to give our spiel, and then I think we will wrap up. So start over here, and then we'll go this way.
Okay, so, I think we need to be recognizing, something for Casey, because he stepped up so, impressively over the last 6 to 12 months. Has worked stupid hours and has never complained about it. And I would like to propose, that this board consider, providing him like a bonus or something. He is the interim superintendent, so that lies on us to be able to recognize that. And it's an unusual time for us. This wasn't what we were anticipating. And I think being really cognizant and appreciative of the people that are doing all this hard work to keep us moving along is something we should consider
Yeah, doing 2.5 jobs for
for a long time.
a few months
Hey,
now.
it's everyone. It's
Yeah.
all the staff kind of stepped up. So
Yeah.
like Julie said, it's
Yeah.
not just me.
You guys can give them, we can only give you. Sorry.
I agree. Put a note to discuss that as a discussion item for our next meeting.
Okay.
So
Okay,
we can
thank
we
you.
can put that on and discuss Casey and or others potentially. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else or
No.
no?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
I think I can speak for Jim on this one. We're busy with the superintendent search as a committee, so excited for next week when we get to all meet about it. And so that's been the focus. Also, Brian put a lot of work on the Friends Park issue. We got the survey out there. I met with him out there. I think we did a good job, a staff level, responding quickly. So we had enough information to actually know what's going on tonight. So I'll shout out to Brian on that.
Yeah, I just wanna say thank you, Jim and Matt, for all the extra work you guys have been putting in to get a superintendent hired. And it is a credit to our staff, all that they do. It seems like we're running like a well-oiled machine. Thank you for all the efforts you guys put in. I mean, it's really incredible. Other than that, Merry Christmas.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
I just have some housekeeping things from a legal standpoint that we need to talk about with the staff. The first one's not on a legal standpoint, but for the last 2 meetings, I haven't seen the the hours for staff concerning the hours that they spend on each one of our properties, so we have that information. You know, I would expect that to be in the next board packet, whoever's responsible for that now. I put that in the being probably 20 years ago. So if somebody in the community comes up and says, how much time have we put into Friends Park? Doesn't look like you're doing anything. Well, wait, I've got 25 man hours doing these things in Friends Park or Riley Park or anywhere else. I think it's important that we know that and that the staff takes a look at how they're using their time in each one of the facilities, or parks. So I'd like to see that back. The other thing is in some of the board training that I need to talk to you about is any fee increases that take place in the park district of any kind need to be approved by the board. We can't just up a fee and this is the way it is. That's basically state law. And so I know that me included was lax on that, but things are getting tighter all the way around. And we need to make sure that the board approves any fee increases. A lot of times it's just, follow through, but we need to know. So if you're gonna increase the pool use, let's say, for public swim by $1, then it behooves the board to ask, well, why is that? And why do we need to do that, or do we need to do that? I know that you brought up a point once about the cost of the pool and people using the pool. So I know it's more work in a way, but it is something that we have to do. The other thing is, and I talked about this before, talked to Casey about the other day, is anything over $500 needs to come through with the quotes and the bids, depending on how much it is, to the board to be approved before it's purchased.
5,000.
Unless it's an emergency, it's 5,000?
Yeah.
Unless it's an emergency. It used to be 500, I'm trying to remember, okay. But still, if there's things that are happening right now, which I hear there might be, that are over that amount of money, that needs to come to the board and needs to be approved. And I'm sure we would approve it, but we need to do that. So
I have a question about that.
make note.
I have a question about that. So at the aquatic center, last weekend they did a great job moving some of the weight equipment around because they're packed there right now. It's great, and with winter, everybody's exercising inside now. So I was there the other night, and they have moved some of the the cardio equipment over kind of where the gymnasium is to free up some workout space inside where the weights usually are, and they were all full. So Wendy has had some patrons ask for some particular equipment, and she has some money in the foundation that was given to the pool years ago, and so she would like to use $10,000 to $12,000 for the purchase of this equipment. So she's working on that, getting that information right now together. But we use Precor equipment in the gymnasium. So do we still need to get the 3 bids? Because we're gonna stick with Precor equipment because they're under agreement.
If you specify a certain brand,
Piece of equipment.
Okay.
then because of what it does, but I would still look at, they're gonna get ellipticals, or they're gonna get whatever they're gonna get, I would still look at getting other quotes.
Okay. Okay.
But what
Because we
she's
are
saying
under
is they have a
contract.
service contract.
Yeah,
with
Precor does?
we do
We do.
with Precor.
Okay.
And so we would like to purchase, and my guess is she would like to, she's working on that now, but she would like to purchase that equipment so that it is under that service agreement. So do we need the 3?
So my question, yeah, I think you do.
Okay,
We do,
okay.
especially if it's over
Yeah, I don't know if it
$10,000
would,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna need to do that, and you can explain, I mean, it can be a low or high, whatever,
Yeah,
depending on what you want. You can, if you went high instead of the low bids, you can explain why.
okay,
I went for this because da da da, and then the board looks at it that way,
okay,
so.
perfect.
And then, the last thing is, today I came in and tried to, and Julie helped and so on my own, and tried to clean up and make a bigger boardroom and make it nicer, maybe I don't even notice, but
I noticed,
It is?
yes, I noticed.
Okay, anyway, it is, but, you know, we're changing over staff and, with the superintendent, and, I don't really wanna do this personally, because of my time, but, we need to organize, the files and so on in the superintendent's office. So it is, so we're able to, have whoever comes on, be able to come in and be able to find what they need to find. Not saying that they will. I mean, I have a lot of, I have a lot of, background and history on what's we've done, and Casey's got quite a bit too. And so, I just wanted the board to know if it's okay with them, I might be going in there and taking a look at that. And trying to file it appropriately.
Would it, that's like asking a real lot from you. Would it, is it possible if we were to hire somebody to do that so that they, at least categorize it to make it easier? I don't know, his office has a whole lot of file cabinets all the way around, so.
Could that be done without context though, do you think? Without someone
That's-
knowing, yeah, that's the hard
Jim,
part.
how many hours are you talking about?
A lot.
Is this like the rest of your life? Like, what are we talking about
It's
here?
the rest of my life. I don't know, I mean, it's probably 4 hours, maybe, maybe more. But again, and if it's okay with folks, I will talk to the Dawn and see, and maybe we can work something out so we can work together on that. But I'd like to do that for for the next superintendent, so they can walk into something where they can. And then, but what is going to cost some money, and I think that we need to do in today's technology, and I don't wanna keep the board much longer, but we need to digitize everything and get it on everything, all our maps. I mean, we have so much paper, it could go from here to the moon and back. So we need to come into the 20th century and do that. And that will cost money, and that is something that needs to be professionally done, where they can digitize everything we have.
So we need to remember that when we're doing the budget.
That's correct.
So we're putting that in there.
I think it's really important. I think that if you walked in there, you would get lost. And that's a concern for important documents that we have.
We hope.
Once we get into the 20th century, can we get to the 21st century?
No, we're back in the 20th century.
Just 20th, we're good, we'll settle for that. Okay, well, with
I
that.
don't know, I didn't hear you guys say that's okay or not, but.
Yeah, it's okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we just feel bad for you.
Thank you.
And with that, we will adjourn.
Hey, Matt, I got a